Hi, this is Nancy Ryan. I want to go over with you today some of the benefits of marriage counseling. I am a relationship coach and marriage counselor, and it's funny when I meet people at networking events or out and about and I tell them what I do for a living, it usually causes one of two reactions. People stop and get a little uncomfortable, or they stop and they'll say something like, "Oh, I don't need marriage counseling because me and my husband never fight." So I find it rather humorous. A lot of times people have the myth that marriage counseling or relationship coaching means if you need that, then you're on the verge of divorce, and that is not true. There's a lot of benefits in getting some counseling and relationship coaching, and I want to walk you through those today. So what I'm going to do is walk you through a little bit of an introduction about me and marriage counseling in general, why counseling, and then talk to you a little bit about with who, as far as what help is out there, how counseling works, what to expect, and then offer you a free gift at the end of our session today. I wrote an ebook about life, love, and relationships, inspirational quotes to inspire, affirm, and take action. And I know that you'll appreciate it. So let me start here. When you want to get in your best physical shape, oftentimes what you will do is hire a trainer. Think about professional athletes. They usually have trainers and coaches and everybody around them so that they can be their best. Why is it when it comes to the personal arena, the psychological, emotional, mental arena, people feel like we have to do that all on our own? It's as if it's embarrassing to say that we need any help in there. But the fact of the matter is our schools don't prepare us to live life that way. We usually learn how to live life by what was modeled to us. And so we aren't always given the best models. So there really isn't anything other than, if you can compare it to personal training, there's no shame in getting a coach or a personal trainer, and I want to say the same thing when it comes to counseling. It takes a lot of courage, as a matter of fact. So some common themes that I see with couples that come talk to me, and maybe you can recognize your own relationship in here because we're all at different stages. So sometimes people, after the romance has worn off, start growing apart or living as roommates as life takes them down different paths. Sometimes couples recognize that they're really having the same fight over and over again. It might be a different day, different kind of subject, but it's the same fight. And sometimes both parties really take a stand and nothing gets resolved, and so you feel like you're at a roadblock. Couples can have disagreements and fights over money, sex, parenting time, how we live our lives. Add another layer of any addictions that are going on or betrayals, infidelities. Those can cause damage to a relationship, but it doesn't have to be that big of a deal either, because sometimes people just really don't feel like they're not connected emotionally. They were hoping for more of a soulmate connection, and that might not be. So sometimes couples will find themselves asking themselves, gee, is this all there is? And there's this fantasy that it might be better if I started over with another partner. So if you can imagine you in a relationship being able to disagree, yet talk calmly about it, being able to negotiate differences, chores, etc., that work for both of you. It's a compromise, or maybe not necessarily a compromise, but you guys agree to disagree and pick up where need be. Having a true partner, someone who has your back in life, your best friend. Having conversations where both parties are heard and respected, even if they don't agree. That's a tricky one for a lot of couples. Feeling really emotionally close and intimate, being able to check in on a daily basis and feel connected, supporting each other's dreams, plans, goals, and being a model of a healthy relationship for your children. All those are benefits. So let me tell you a little bit about why I'm passionate about what I do. I remember graduating from high school and wondering where the Life 101 class was. I didn't have a real strong sense of myself. I didn't have necessarily great role models of how to run a relationship. And so I kind of fell into my first marriage. This guy was crazy for me, and I thought, okay, well, what the heck? Not the best way to pick a mate. And he ended up having major addiction issues, and our relationship was in a lot of turmoil. I got a beautiful daughter out of that relationship, but we ended up splitting. And I lived as a single mom for 6, 7 years, so I understand that struggle as well. When I felt it was time to meet somebody again, you know, I had done a lot of personal work on myself through therapy, through recovery, through a variety of different avenues, and made a better choice the second time around. But we still ended up with a lot of issues. Just whirlwind romance. When that wore off, we realized we didn't have the skills necessary to create a long-term marriage. And 10 years into our marriage, after a few rocky years, we separated for about 3 years. Both of us did a ton of work on our own in therapy, in different men's and women's groups, in couples counseling, and we came back stronger than we've ever been. We've been together almost 20 years now, and it's just something that I stand for, and I think it's so very important and vital. Some women talk about being so lonely inside their marriage that they'd rather be single. And I don't ever want to be in that position again. So in 2006, I went back and got my master's degree. I have over 2,700 hours now in the last 5 years of counseling others, and on my way to get my license. So it's really just become a passion for me, and I love helping other people live healthy lives, whether that's, you know, individually, because we first need to know who we are and something about ourselves to be able to connect in a relationship that's healthy. So why counseling? You know, a lot of us have friends and family around us, which is excellent. I just encourage that and having those connections. But friends aren't designed to be our counselors, and we can, especially if there's a rocky relationship going on, we can rely on our friends too much and kind of burn that relationship out. And we also, you know, our friends are biased. You know, they don't really know the questions to ask to get down to the deep levels. So a lot of times it's kind of well, just leave them. You know, it's more of that because they're trying to help you and they're biased for you. Now, family, same type of thing. You know, it's like, you know, I can talk bad about my husband, but don't you? And so if you start sharing with your family things that are going on, they too become biased, and doesn't really create a really healthy dynamic for, you know, holidays and that kind of thing. So, and also, our family's our role model. We just do what we were shown. We think we're going to do differently, but when you first have kids and you start saying exactly what came out of your mom's mouth that you swore you'd never say, you realize that we do what we saw and not necessarily what we wanted to do. So there's some underlying things that happen there. So when you get into counseling, you have a neutral third party that stands for the relationship. Trained in psychology and family dynamics and interpersonal skills, so that there's some knowledge and reference there, and knows the questions to ask to get underneath what's really going on. And then also a counselor, a trained counselor, can facilitate understanding between two people a lot faster than if you're bumbling around trying to do it on your own. So benefits of counseling. A lot of people want to improve their communication, and so this is one of the very first ones that happen. You learn to de-escalate arguments quicker before damage can happen. Everybody knows, you know, a little argument starts, and before you know, things are said that you can't take back, and that can create emotional damage and resentments. There is a way to have healthy conflict resolution versus the dirty fighting that a lot of couples do just because they're protecting themselves. So to create an ability to have a discussion instead of a fight, and to learn a dynamic in communication that lets you both be heard and understood. And then we're all going to make mistakes. And so there are things that you can learn to reconnect and repair when you get off track. A lot of people get stuck in these patterns of nagging, criticizing, blaming, because there's this thought, if you would just get your stuff together, I'd be happy. Well, we know those don't work. And so there's other ways to get those needs met. Some other benefits of counseling. What I do a lot with my clients is help them learn their own temperaments and learn their spouse's temperament. And this is the way that we perceive the world, the way that we interact in the world, and it can make a big difference in understanding each other. One of the things that I encourage from the beginning is to continue to build the love banks. When couples continue to have conflict and they don't put back the love, there's just nothing to draw on. So learning how each other receives and gives love is a benefit. Being able to connect emotionally and build a richer relationship is definitely a benefit of counseling, negotiating differences. That kind of falls under communication. But you know, nobody can push your buttons, those internal buttons, like your spouse. And identifying and understanding and diminishing the impact of that button pushing. Sometimes those go all the way back to when we were little and how we were hurt and ways that we tried to protect ourselves. And when we get into a relationship, you know, having a relationship is like the best life experience that you can do, because you either grow with it or not. And you know, I love that quote from The Shawshank Redemption where Morgan Freeman's character says, you know, we get busy living or we get busy dying. And I think the same thing is with relationships. We have to continue to learn and grow inside our relationships to have them be a thriving, beautiful, healthy place. So the skills are needed to build lasting love. And think about the cost and the trauma on all of divorce. You know, the emotional cost, the financial cost, kids living in separate homes. And, you know, sometimes marriages don't make it and there is a divorce. But by doing some work in the current relationship, you can really eliminate patterns, because we go into the next relationship and we have a tendency to repeat some of the dysfunctional behaviors that we did in the first relationship unless we acknowledge them and work on them. So, who to counsel with? We already talked a little bit about friends and the dangers of that. Now, having a friend to just bounce things off of is highly recommended, but not on a regular basis for specific issues with your spouse. Pastor, minister, wonderful help in terms of handling your relationship from the spiritual dynamics and sometimes the couple's dynamics, but not all pastors and ministers are trained in marriage counseling, and sometimes it's beyond their scope. You also hear life coaching out there today. Somehow that seems to be a little bit more in vogue, saying I have a coach versus a therapist. And some life coaches are wonderful. You have to just be really careful about their level of training. There is no regulatory board to hang your shingle out as a life coach. And so you have to be really careful about what their experience and training is. So my recommendation is to counsel with a professional. And you've got these four listed here: a psychologist, social worker, a licensed professional clinical counselor, and a marriage family therapist. The psychologist has more education, but the social worker, professional counselor, and marriage family therapist all have at least a master's degree, and most of them have up to 3,000 professional hours before they're out on their own. so you have a qualified person to help you. So how does counseling work? In marriage counseling, I view the client as the relationship or the marriage. I'm the one that stands in the center and holds your relationship up as important as what you're both striving for. A lot of the work that I do is I ask people to bring their arguments into the room. Bring the things that are bothering you right into the room, because I'm able to help decipher, some of the real needs and the hidden messages that are deeper and below. Sometimes when you start trying to talk about what's really bothering you, it's not quite that, it's something else. So I'm able to help bring that to the forefront and help you communicate that to your spouse. So I have a step-by-step process that I take couples through, and again, the goal is to reduce conflict and build love. So we're doing both of those at the same time to help strengthen the relationship. So what to expect? We will have our initial meeting where we get to know one another and find out if we're a good fit. I ask a little bit about what your major concerns are, a little bit about how you fell in love and what you love most about your partner, and what would make a great relationship or marriage for you. And so then we set some goals and plans around getting you there. How long it takes? Usually it's a 6-session minimum. Sometimes people have been in these patterns for a long time and they don't go away overnight. Average couple sessions, I'd say, is about 10. Sometimes couples take months, and then they can always come back for booster sessions. But it doesn't have to be a forever process. It's skill building, repair, and then you go live your life. So I get the question a lot, what if my spouse won't come? And there's definitely things that we can do without both partners there. I have a client right now that has made major progress in her relationship, and she comes in by herself. There's different ways of looking at things, of shifting our own behavior that will have an impact in the relationship. It just can't help but. So although I do have a plan, I work with flexibility for what comes up. Because if there's, if my plan is to work on this next step, but you've had a major issue that week, then that's what we work on. So I hope this kind of covers for you a little bit more about what marriage counseling is and isn't. This is my contact information, my cell phone, my email, and my website. That's counselinginsacramento.com. And you can learn more about me there. And thank you for listening. I would love to offer you the free ebook. You can visit counselinginsacramento.com/opt-in-book. OPTINBOOK. Just put your name and your email in there, and you can download the book. And that will subscribe you to my newsletter. If you don't want to stay subscribed, you can certainly unsubscribe, but I usually do that monthly and provide some tips on relationships and other tidbits of information. So thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or give me a call. Thanks. Bye-bye.